our podcast. With us is Giuseppe Adamo, an expert on Italian politics and also international organized crime and mafia activities in Italy. Today we will be talking about similar activities, criminal in nature, but on an even larger scale. The topic is the Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine and how Italy has reacted to this. What would you say? How is the main feeling in Italy when it comes to the war? Do people even talk about it still, or right now it's all Gaza?
No, of course there was a change after what's going on in the Middle East. So now is definitely all Gaza. But for more than a year, we had in Italy the absolutely terrible views of these talk shows when literally pro-Russian panelists and pro-Ukrainian panelists would clash each other, and as a tool to normalize the Russian view of that, the Russian lie of that. So Italy, as I said also in the previous episode, has been one of the countries was the mostly targeted by Russian disinformation, partially direct, partially indirect, because when you invite a professor and you promise him €2,000 per episode, he would take Russian positions if it's necessary, right? Just because is the gateway to become famous and rich in a short amount of time. So yes, the lack of culture about disinformation played a big role, and I hope in the future we can develop a resilience to it, understanding and differ between a different point of view and organize disinformation by a state actor.
Also in Italy, or rather internationally, there was some worry ahead of the previous election when it looked like Giorgia Meloni and her Fratelli d'Italia party will win. Initially, there were some voices saying that, she's a right-wing populist, which means that she will automatically side with Russia and there will be no more military aid from Italy to Ukraine. But after she took the reins as prime minister, there was even more military aid going to Ukraine than before. Why is the reason for this?
No, absolutely not. That was said it was a lie. Something I appreciate about her is that her party, since the beginning, is always being pro-NATO and quite pro-United States. And the things I appreciate the most about her is that when she was in the opposition, when the war started, her party decided to vote in the parliament in favor of sending weapons to Ukraine, despite that was seen as unpopular in Italy, because 57% of Italians were against. She took a stable ground. She took a steady ground and said, no, the sovereignty is the sovereignty of a country. It should be defended with every possible means. So, no, there was no switch. She always been pro-NATO and pro-Ukrainian, and this is something I think which should not be seen as right-wing or left-wing. It should be seen as part of European civilization and a part of the right to defend your sovereignty.
These weapons, they have kept flowing. Most recently, I think it was the M109 howitzers that were being sent to Ukraine in quite large numbers. There are also other types of Italian equipment that are being sent. Also intelligence being shared, which is quite important. What is Italy's position on European defense issues in general? Of course, they have a large domestic weapons industry that is producing also a lot of weapons and is sometimes in rivalry with that of the German, for example. Will Italy, for example, support a future EU army if there would be such an initiative?
Honestly, right now, I'm quite skeptical that they're going to support a EU army without a deep negotiation and big debate. We're still talking about a government who tend to be quite national conservative. So the idea of giving the command of its own army to somebody that could be French or German could cause some skepticism. The good side is that the Italian defense industry is still quite partially connected to the Italian European partners. If you think about, for example, the Eurofighter The Eurofighter is being produced in UK, in France, in Italy, and so on, and is an absolute masterpiece of avionics. And so I think that going toward the direction of European army wouldn't be seen as something positive in the short term by the actual government, the current government. Nevertheless, that we are in the NATO, so probably there will be the discussion, the argumentation that that's not necessary. So no, I don't think that's something that will be seen soon, to be honest.
And when it comes to the army, Italy was naturally united as a state in the end of the 19th century, but many claim that it really became one nation in connection with the First World War, that this brought people together from every region, and it created this strong national feeling. You also see the Italian military on the streets for many years now, that they are protecting against potential terror attacks and so on. It seems that there is a lot of respect in Italy for the military uniform. Is this an accurate description?
It is an accurate description. The policeman, the soldier is seen as someone who risks his own life on the streets for not high salary. So there is a lot of respect, except from those usually on the far left, which is quite idealized, and they see a form of fascism and a form of military rhetoric that should be destroyed. But in general, they are well respected. There is a form of admiration toward those environments, especially because we have many cases of people who gave up their life to save others. For example, in the Second World War, there is one carabiniere called Salvo d'Acquisto. When the Nazis were occupying Italy after everything changed, let's say, he gave himself up instead of 10 Italians who were sentenced to death by the Germans, because for every German soldier killed by the Italian resistance, they will kill 10 civilians. And
rookie numbers compared to Poland. But still, absolutely a devastating effect on...
The guy gave himself up. It was called Salvo d'Acquisto. Or, for example, the prosecutor, Giovanni Falcone, Paolo Borsellino, who died on mafia bombings. They were surrounded by the police escort, who also died in both cases in the attacks. So there is a huge respect, because they're seen as the servants of the states, that doing that for a bigger cause, which is our safety.
And judging by opinion poll numbers, it is quite clear that the military, the police, they do seem to have a lot of confidence in Giorgia Meloni, and they tend to vote right-wing and not really left-wing. And returning here to Giorgia Meloni, there were some speeches by her in parliament where she was defending her position on the war in Ukraine, where she was getting agitated and talking about how this is a war of aggression by Russia, how the case of national sovereignty is important. So it does seem that she takes this issue quite personally in many ways. She's emotionally invested. Does this mean that her support for Ukraine is likely to continue, even though there could be mounting criticism against her in Italy?
I believe so. I think she saw it as an occasion to... first of all, let Italy play an international role once again. After so many years, Italy has been the corner of diplomacy. Secondly, she had to fight sometimes against her coalition partners who were saying pro-Russian stuff into the media. So this heated up the environment. Definitely. And thirdly, she really sees it as a way to affirm state sovereignty. So in some way, the fight for Ukraine for independence and freedom is directly connected with her political ideology and her political past. She thinks that every state must be sovereign, and they should use every means to protect this sovereignty. So I see a connection between what she thinks she used to think and what the war in Ukraine represents.
And regarding Giorgia Meloni, she has also faced some criticism that she had very strong rhetoric before coming to power when it comes to stopping illegal migration. Some of her supporters say that they are slightly disappointed that not more has been done since. She seems to be saying that the European Union is right now changing the law. She will give it a chance that there will be some relocations from Italy to other countries, and that this will decrease the pressure on Italy itself. But she has also been saying that if this doesn't work, then Italy can go at it alone and take a more drastic stance. What do you think she will do about migration?
We have been seeing that she has been extremely moderate until now, despite what she was saying or she was shouting in the electoral campaign. She have been, since as a prime minister, she's already a year in power, she's been quite moderate. She didn't do anything particularly controversial, because I think she understood that the best solutions are those which are long-term and subtle and highly worked on. If we can talk about one of the main success, or at least something which looks like it's going to the right direction, she's trying to stop the flux from its own origin, the source of origin. So if the government was, the two governments were before with the Salvini in power, remember that right-wing government were just stopping ships on the Mediterranean Sea, creating, indignation. And she instead subtly working with Tunisia. She's been in a tour in Africa. She been in Tunisia, for example, with von der Leyen. So she's understand that a solution must be massive, must be European, and must be only in cooperation with the external countries. And one of the proof of a slightly change that happened is that if, for example, 2015 until the last, the only solution that the European Union was officially writing in papers for the Italian case was the relocation, then was stopped by Hungary or was stopped by Poland and so on. Now, if we read the same papers, they also explain, they are also explicitly mentioning the fact that the European Union must control the external borders better, and this has to be done in cooperation with the third countries from the North Africa. So this change is something which is thought to be the outcome of the initial work, because she's been in power since only a year, of Giorgia Meloni. If it's been effective till now, I think many things are still lacking. For example, we have been a spike a month ago of arrivals because the Tunisian prime minister got pretty mad because he was promised some money by the European Union and the European Union didn't pay him yet. Something which was incredibly fast when it was the case of Germany and Turkey a few years ago. Erdogan got his 3 billion per year without any problem. When, for some reason, the Tunisian prime minister should wait more, which caused some conflict. But at least things are slightly and slowly moving, which is a good sign.
So what happened 1 month ago? Where did these boats go?
There was a spike on arrival, even if I well remember, 10,000 in a day. It happens that Giorgia Meloni and Commissioner von der Leyen went to Tunisia, and they want to start a cooperation program with the Tunisian prime minister, offering him some huge money, part of the recovery fund, if I well remember, in order to cooperate with Italy, with the European Union, in order to stop immigration. Because this immigration is mostly coming from sub-Saharan Africa, from the Sahel. And they go up the African continent, and then they get in these improvised boats, and they reach the Italian islands. When they reach, sadly, sometimes they drown, and it's a tragedy all the time. And for some reason, the payment keep being delayed, which caused the Tunisian government to be really mad at it, and they started to stop control the flux and keep pushing people. And this created an incident, of course, in the Italian government, in the sense that there were many arrivals.
What would you say is the general attitude among Italians? Because the number of migrants arriving by boat to Italy has been increasing even before the 2015 European migration crisis, but after 2015, it really exploded.
There is a sense of dissatisfaction. There is a sense of people feel betrayed by their own state because it looks like a state that cannot control its borders, that cannot control the safety measure, or cannot even have a long-term plan for the integration of those who are already arrived. In the case, it's really impossible to control the borders because it is quite difficult when there's a sea. If there's a land, is something, but when there is the whole Mediterranean Sea, we both understand it's not something easy to do. People feel that the institutions are weak. People they're dissatisfied. People don't trust the government because they're so weak, they cannot protect us. They cannot protect our country. They cannot establish a sort of rule of law saying, you come here legally, you're welcome. You come here illegally, we can accompany you back. Because there is no such a thing. Repatriations are really few compared to the arrivals. Those who are repatriated are those who committed really serious crime or those from countries which have bilateral agreements. But most of the people stay or disappear or goes in other European countries, right? And we arrive to a point that it is said that repatriate 500,000 people is more expensive than let them be. So this is seen as a form of anarchy. And despite our counter-terrorism works quite well because all of them are being kind of tracked, background checked, all the possible terrorist attacks are being prevented through a peculiar work of intelligence, like the mosques are mostly monitored. All those who start with hate speech rhetoric are being monitored, followed, and then are being repatriated. We had on average 60 imam who have been seen as radicalized, expelled from the country. So the counterterrorism works, but when it's about petty crimes, when it's about the integration of these people or the straight control of borders, there is a big problem.
Well, we'll have to monitor the situation, see whether Giorgia Meloni takes any active measures in the coming year or so, and hopefully we'll be able to discuss it again with you.
I hope to be soon really back here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.